presentation, creating more hours in your day, with Kate Buechner. So Kate, what do you find one of the problems photographers have that prevents them going forward in the business?
What we're going to talk about is work-life balance. So especially when you're a mum, that's the hardest thing to get right. I think everyone struggles with it at some point in their career, but finding that work-life balance is why we do what we do, and it's the most important thing to get right.
Yeah, I suppose it is. Everyone's in a different situation, but the point about us being in small business is that we want the freedom to be able to have holidays when we want to make the money we want to. So we need to be in control of our lives. Otherwise, being in small business, you may as well just get a job, right?
Exactly. You know, both Chris and I came from a corporate background where we worked long hours, and we realised when we had kids that's not what we wanted for our family. So we started the business so that we would have a better work-life balance, and that's what we've worked really, really hard to achieve.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. And I know as I coach photographers around the world that one of the main problems, of course, is finding time, and time is very important. We need time because we need to do the right things. We need to have time to do the marketing. We need time to do the shooting and do the sales and do the important things. So
That's right. It's fitting everything in.
Yeah. So this is your family.
Yeah, I can't see the picture, Bernie, so I don't know if it's come up or not.
All right. Let's have a look. Can we see the picture now?
Yep, now I'm there. Yep, that's it.
Okay, there you are.
That's us.
Interesting photograph. That looks up a mountain somewhere.
Yeah, so Chris and I, we get our family photo done every single year.
Right.
And this is our session from last year up in the Blue Mountains in New South Wales. It's just the most spectacular, beautiful spot. And that's my brood. So you've got Felix, who's with my husband Chris, and then Millie with me, and then Max on the end. So they're 16, 14 and 11.
Okay, just so you've got, yeah, a growing rapidly bunch there.
Yeah, growing rapidly is a good way to describe it. Maxie grew a head in a year. We worked out when we went and looked at the photos from last year to this year. So yes, they are growing rapidly at the moment.
And that's something interesting you do. Every year you go to a different photographer, have a family photograph taken, pay the normal rates.
Yes.
And
yep, that's exactly what we do. I realised years ago that I was recording all these amazing memories for other people's families, and I was forgetting about my own. And also, I didn't know what it was like to be on the other side of the camera, and so I wanted to experience what my clients experience. And everyone hates having their photo taken. It doesn't matter what anyone says, we all hate it. But I've really learnt the value of what I do, in that these family photos that I've done with my kids are some of the most precious things that we have, and I really value my own work.
Yes, and you know, a lot of photographers would experience another photographer to maybe learn the tricks they're using or the sales techniques or the whatever, but you don't do it for any of those reasons, purely because you believe in what you do.
Yeah, it's not for those reasons at all, and you know, we've chosen different photographers over the years, that some that do digital files, some that do products, and the ones that I ultimately love are the ones that have done everything for us, because they're the photos that we've got on the walls. Yeah. So I mean, you know, not that I don't love the ones that just give me the digital files, but unfortunately those are the ones that are sitting in my drawer, yeah, and I haven't printed what I should have from them.
Yeah, great. So you're looking from the customer perspective.
Yeah, as much as it seems like good value sometimes to get the files and you think, okay, great, it's not going to cost me as much, the unfortunate reality is you print out a couple of photos but you never end up with what you actually want. Whereas this session last year was amazing photographer. We've got a beautiful album, we've got canvas on the wall and a frame print of the kids on the wall, and you know, the kids love it. They sit down and look at the album. When their cousins came over at Christmas time, they pulled out the album to show their cousins.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, and this is teenage boys, so I was a little surprised.
That's right. Now this is the front of your studio.
Yeah. So our studio is situated on a big main road that literally runs from the centre of Sydney pretty much to Queensland. So it's a 3-lane road on both sides. So a big major arterial road, and it is the reason we chose that space because of the exposure. And yeah, it's originally a Victorian terrace, so it's 2 stories. That's the front of the studio as people come in.
Okay. So just talk us through what we're looking at now.
So the picture on the left, that's what they're greeted with when they come in. So that's our client viewing area. The TV that you can see there is where I show people their photos, and the stairs on the left, that goes up to the room on the right, which is our studio. So as I mentioned, it's an old Victorian terrace, and that's why it's got the beautiful French doors and the fireplace. They were all features that were there that we love to incorporate in our photos.
Right. Yeah, it looks great. And it's not a very big area though, is it? It's very narrow.
No, it's not a big space, and this is what, it makes you realise you don't need a big space to be able to shoot. Space is always a luxury when it comes to a studio, but it's just enough space to be able to shoot a family comfortably, and we shoot a lot of corporate headshots, and Chris, I don't know if you're going to talk about it, but my husband Chris also photographs boudoir in there as well.
Okay. So you do photography outdoors also?
Yeah, so I'm about 60% in the studio, 40% outdoors. I would love that to be more studio, but it's just a gradual process to change that over for me. Sydney at the moment has been absolutely crazy, so unfortunately when you're shooting outdoors, every afternoon we've had storms at 4 or 5 o'clock, which is exactly when I photograph families. So I would love to do more studio, that's what I'm working towards, but I know the reality is I'll still always do some outdoors because my clients do love it as well.
Do you find in your sales that people buy more when they're photographed outdoors?
There's no difference at all between my averages between outdoors and in studio. No difference whatsoever.
So theoretically, you may as well do them in the studio.
It does make life easier, and it's not weather dependent, and I've got a lovely big air conditioner to keep it nice and cool and all those plus sides. So that's I always do this after summer, after we've had a hot muggy summer in Sydney, which is what we always get. I'm always like, okay, more studio, I need more studio shoots, but I understand that there are going to be people that want outdoors, and I will continue to do it. So I just got to juggle it around with Sydney weather.
Yeah, great. So this is the studio. A couple of shots in the studio.
Yep, so this is what I love to do, and this is, it's actually, my studio style's really changed again over the last year, and it's one of the things that I love actually about photographing in studio. You kind of think you're going to get stuck in a rut of what you do, but just adding another prop can add another element. So the bed on the with the little boys photo, we got that last year, and it's just working beautifully for my photos, so I'm using it a lot. And then the one on the right, that's just against the French doors and using backlight, just to add some interest. And yeah, I can create lots of different feels and looks, and it doesn't look like a studio. That's the most important thing to me, is that it doesn't feel like a white on white background studio.
Yeah, it's not too structured and natural, and a natural feel to go with it. They look great.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we'll just move on and just look at some other images, because although you say it's a small area, I see you can do a big group in there if they're properly sort of set up.
Yeah, so I had a group on the weekend of 20 in there, so I've discovered 20 still works, so this group's slightly smaller than that. So yeah, I mean, it's squeezy, it's not massive space, but there's enough room to be able to fit a big group in there and to be able to pose a big group. For me, a really important element of photography, and where I had a light bulb moment years ago, was understanding posing, and it just changes your whole perspective on photography when you understand how to pose a group of people. And so when I have a big group like that, I'm really confident with doing, because I know how to sort of put them together to make it look great, even with a bigger group like that in studio.
Now, as I look at each face on that photograph of the big group, they're all sort of perfect. Now, are you going to tell me you haven't moved a few heads around in Photoshop? And
I haven't. I
you
have not moved ahead in that photo. So we talk about the work-life balance. My work-life balance is mainly achieved by not spending any extra time on photos that I don't have to spend. I will do a head swap if I really haven't got the shot, but I would prefer to click the camera 10 times to get the photo with everyone smiling
yeah.
than to have to go back in afterwards and do a head swap. So that has no head swaps whatsoever in it.
Yeah, well, that's great. It looks fantastic. So post-production, just tell us
Yep.
about the
So
post-production, which is what a lot of photographers would spend a lot of time, too much time maybe doing, and tell me about your workflow a little bit.
Yep. I'll just go back to sort of explaining a bit about the hours and things like that because that sort of makes everything fall into place. So I work 8 till 3 and my husband works 9 till 5, and that's mainly to work around our kids' schedules. So my husband gets the kids sorted in the morning, gets my daughter off to school, and then I come home in the afternoon to collect her and to supervise homework and do that. So my work hours are 8 till 3 and I have to fit everything of my business into that time, and then I work on a Saturday for a few hours in the afternoon. So post-production for me has to be as tight as possible. So this photo, that's our back office studio. So we have 3 workstations, so one for Chris, one for myself, and we have part-time staff member that works 1 day a week. So my post-production is all done through Camera Raw. I've tried to switch to Lightroom last year and went and did a course and realised there's so little difference between Lightroom and Camera Raw that I might as well just stick with what I know and what I like working with. So I do a basic colour correction in Raw and then convert to JPEGs, and that clients see. So I can literally, edit the photos down to the number that I want and do that within half an hour.
Okay, so that's great, and that's one of the areas I think most photographers struggle with post-production, and they maybe get a bit too precious in their post-production. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think a lot of photographers are perfectionists, and I'm no different, but what I've learned is that you have to let go because the clients really can't tell the difference between an image that's, our vision and showing them an image that's pretty close to where it needs to be anyway. So, every minute we spend in Photoshop equates to time spent on that job, which means, we're making less money. And I'm very much about, looking at the figures and seeing the time that's invested into each job to know that I'm actually making money from it.
So just taking a back step on the hours, you work 8 till 3, you don't work evenings,
No.
and yeah,
So occasionally I should say, occasionally I edit at home when I'm really busy, but other than that, no, I don't do anything. And I actually don't have Bridge on my computer at home, so I can't be tempted to.
okay, and you work Saturday morning and afternoon?
Yeah, so once a month generally I work in the studio in the morning, and then every Saturday afternoon. I'm trying this year to bring it to 3 out of 4, but the reality is if it needs to be 4 Saturdays a month, I'll do it. At the moment I'm booking into April, so I'm having to do every single Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, that's great.
So, but when I say I work on Saturday, the reason why I work Saturday afternoons is I work around my kids. So both of my boys play sport on a Saturday morning, and I want to be able to watch one of them play. So I go do that in the morning with them, and then my sessions start in the afternoon after they're done.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's just move on. And just talking about your post-production, what you get out of the camera is pretty good anyways. Your exposure looks pretty good.
Yeah, so the one on the left, that's literally what has come. Sorry, that's after raw adjustments done. So I do aim to get it as close in camera as I possibly can, but when you're shooting kids and families, things happen. Sometimes things are a little bit over, sometimes a little bit under. It is the reality of it. So that basic adjustment in camera raw is just to get exposure pretty much spot on. I'll also brighten faces if I need to. It just depends, but honestly, the clients, if you put these two photos next to each other, the clients see the difference, but if you just show them the photos on the left, they're totally happy with it. They go, okay, great, and I tell them I'll do any retouching required in anything that you order. So the left is out of camera raw, and then the right is a photo that a client's ordered that's just had some additional Photoshop work done to it.
Yeah, so this is mixing daylight and what other light do you use?
Yeah, so you asked a non-technical person, but I have one of those big ball light things, and I use that as a fill light. So the windows are my main light, and that's just to give me a fill. Obviously, with something where it's backlit like that, it's doing a bit more work. But yeah, so it's mainly natural light, but I'm adding a little bit of continuous light, just so I don't get the drop off from the light. So it's yeah, just a combination of both.
Nice.
I don't ever use flash because I really don't like flash. Chris shoots a lot with flash, but I'm not a technical shooter. That's not me. So I like to keep things simple with using natural light as much as possible.
And the same way you tackle exposure outside, obviously you've got your light right, you know, your light ratios, and your post-production is very little.
Yeah, I actually shoot outdoors on auto ISO, so I shoot on a Nikon D750, and the thing I love about Nikons is that you've got an auto ISO, so you can just set your shutter speed and let the camera do the work as it needs to. So the only thing I ever just use outside is to change the aperture and say exposure comp. So if I'm shooting and obviously it's really bright behind, I'll use some exposure comp, but other than that I just don't touch settings when I'm shooting outdoors. For me, I mean, I can shoot manually and that's not a problem, but I don't want to be worrying about my camera. I want to focus on the family that's in front of me or the kids that are in front of me, and they move so quickly and do things, and if you're worrying about your camera, then you miss those moments. So for me, we have these pro cameras, use them to their full capability, and it just makes my life so much easier when I'm shooting with kids and dogs, which I do a lot of.
And as I keep looking at that photograph with those two little girls and those two little dogs, again, the expressions are spot on, and the dogs, it looks as though you've got an assistant in this photo just getting the dog's attention. No?
No assistant. That would be Mum standing next to me that the dogs would probably be looking at, but I don't even need that. I never shoot with assistant. It's just me. I'm happy to be an idiot to get kids to laugh, just to do silly things and just to be real, and the kids relax. And people often say to me, my photography has, the kids always look relaxed, and it's because the moment they walk up and I start the session, I'm a bit of an idiot with them and talk to them and just be real, and so the kids get that, and I think that's why I get the photos that I do, is they just relax with me and they realise this isn't a formal, I've got to sit there and be perfect. Yeah. I can just be myself. But yeah, no assistance. I tried it a couple of times and I just found it a hindrance, so I never shoot with anyone. It's just me by myself.
You have to manage one extra person, the assistant.
Exactly right. And that being said, of late I've been taking my boys along because I'm trying to teach them the idea of work and earning some money, and they carry, I have one spare lens with me, and I've got that thing that the girls are sitting on. If it's been raining, I bring that along. So they're basically to lug things along. That's all they do. Yeah, in terms of an official assistant, I just don't do it. It's not an option for me.
Yeah, great. So let's talk sales. This is your sales room, as we saw before, which when you walk through the front door, this is what we're confronted with. So your sales,
that's right.
You've got the couch there and you've got the TV and products on the wall.
Yep. So obviously when people come in, they come in, sit down, and I use Pro Select to show them all their photos on the screen. So I show them a slideshow to start off with, and then we go through and talk about the images they love and what would suit them. So I have a range of different sizes on the wall so they can see that. On the back wall on the left-hand side, there's a whole lot more samples there as well. So my focus is very much on just sitting down and talking to people and finding out what really suits them. I have a background in sales, so people kind of think, oh, okay, well, you're going to be really salesy, but I'm actually the opposite of that. I don't want to sell to them as such. I want to sit down and talk to my families about what actually suits them and what products they like. Because a big focus on for me is repeat clients, and so I don't want to burn people in the experience. So it's very much talking to them about what they want and what suits their home.
Yeah, very simple, non-confusing display us on the wall.
Yeah, and it's the same with my price list. It's so simple that they can just sit down and look through it and know exactly what everything is. So I don't want confusion around actual products. It's hard enough for people to decide on sizes of what's going to suit them. So I literally have frame prints, canvases, coffee table books, and digital files. That's the 3 options or 4 options that you can choose from.
Okay, so shall we talk about digital files? The big question, of course, within the industry is, should we give them, sell them, or what should we do with them? What's your interpretation of that?
I don't know that you could run a business these days without having them as an option. I think you've got to have it there because people are very focused on that. But it should be one of the most expensive things on your price list, because if they're getting those, they're getting everything from you, and it's the maximum amount of work. So I have 2 options with digital files. I have the 10 files, or they can have all the files from the session, and they get 10 prints of those photos. My reasoning with that is I want them to know what they should look like when they print them. The first time I offered digital files, I had someone came back and said, oh, I've printed it and it's green. No, it's not green, it's just where you've printed it. So those prints just cover me that I don't get people coming back. But honestly, I'm probably 10-15% of my clients go for digital files. They're not choosing me for that because that's my most expensive option. There's prints that are cheaper, there's loads of options that they can get better value as such than the digital files. So it's not something that I'm selling all the time, it's just there as an option. So if they ask me, do you sell them, I'd say yes.
Yeah, great. So with your studio management, again, this is where photographers spend a lot of time just trying to organize the administration at the back end of their business. You use Tave. Tell us.
That's right. So Tave is obviously a CRM system, and I use it for pretty much everything in terms of keeping track of my business. So the moment a client calls up, their information is entered into Tave as a potential lead, and we put in a follow-up call to follow up with them. So that's how we track following up with client calls. All our emails are done through Tave as well, so I have a whole range of templates for different questions that people have, and I put the template in and send that out. ProSelect actually imports the figures into Tave, do that as well, so all my figures are recorded in that. It's limitless with Tave of what you can do and how much you want it to do for you. But for me, because I'm photographing sessions, so many sessions, it really allows me to keep track of where every job is at what stage, what I need to be doing with them, so that I can keep track of things. But honestly, it's such an integral part of my business. I don't know how I would do what I do without it.
Yeah, it's great. You've always got the numbers. You're spot on, right up to date. You know exactly what your turnover is daily.
Yeah. Look, and it's an example. Chris and I yesterday were sitting down. Obviously, we'd been the start of the year working out marketing plans and thinking about what we're going to be doing for the year. And we thought, okay, well, we need some figures out of the glamour business of where we're at. So we were able to pull out how many leads we had last year, how many were converted, how much did we earn out of that, what was the average sale, what were the leads that were working the best, where do we need to focus in on our business. All that information was a couple of clicks on the computer and you have it there in front of you, and that's the power that you can then go, okay, well, now we need to sit down, we know this is working well, so what else can we do around that? It makes all of that part of your business so much easier to run.
And I know you also use Mailchimp for your email marketing.
Yep. So with Tave, you can export an Excel spreadsheet, so a CSV file that you can import into Mailchimp. So that's our way of doing that. And yeah, we use Mailchimp for all our newsletters.
Yes, that's great. So if anybody out there listening hasn't got any in-studio system, certainly Kate would recommend Tave there.
Yeah. Look, the great thing with Tave is they've got lots of tutorials that you can look at, and they're very, very helpful. There's also a great Facebook group, so if you've got questions you're starting up, any CRM system always seems a bit overwhelming when you start out, but just start with some basics and then add to it as you go along. I'm actually helping a few people at the moment with setting it up, and that's what I always say is, don't get caught down in doing everything with a CRM system because you'll never get it set up. Just set up the database part of it first and tracking your clients, and then add all those other bits as you go along and you want to add more usability to it.
That's great, Kate. Before we close, I just want to see if Marlon wants to talk. I just want to see if we've got a question out there. If Marlon, are you there? He specifically wanted to ask a question. No, he's not connecting now. It looks as though he's still muted. So Kate, thank you very much. Thank you for getting up early, and it's been fantastic. And what a business! What a sustainable business! It's what I love about your business. It's sustainable. You can run it for many years to come, and that's just gold. So.
Yeah, look, I'm really passionate in terms of what I do because I just see too many mums that are giving up their time with their kids when they're little. And, we have kids because we want to spend time with them and enjoy them. And running your own business is a way to be able to do that. So the business shouldn't be running you. You need to run your business. Your family is your focus. So, it's really key. Think about your workflow, what you're doing so that you can spend that time with your children that you want to, rather than, spending your whole time working on your business.
And obviously you're going to enjoy it more if you have that balance.
Yeah, totally. And that's the thing is, I'm excited to go to work every day, and I do enjoy that time because I know that at 3 o'clock I'll go and get my daughter and have that time with my kids in the afternoon, and I have no regrets looking back on their childhood, which was something I was really determined as a parent to be there for them while they were little. So my kids haven't done the after school care and all the other things that I see people doing because they occasionally have had to do it as, if I need to work, I need to work. But, 90% of the time I'm there for them in the afternoon supervising homework. And you get to a point, like my kids are going, I have all of them in high school next year, it all changes then. You don't need to be there quite as much. But while they're little, and that's the time that I think most people do start a business, just make the business work for you. Don't be ruled by your business and miss out on your children because, we all know they just grow up way too fast and it's not the way. So, I'm such a big thing of you need to find that balance so that you can run your business, but your family doesn't miss out.
And the exciting thing for me as a photography business coach is that you had record months and financial turnover in November and December last year. So congratulations with that. That's pretty good to see a business grow after 6 years. Is still growing.
Yeah, look, and we've been very lucky. As you mentioned at the start, Chris and I started out as wedding photographers, photographing 50 weddings a year. And that doesn't make for a great work-life balance because obviously every single Saturday we were gone and some Sundays as well. We were missing out on lots of things with the kids, and that's when we restructured our business and went, okay, this isn't what we want to be doing anymore. And I started photographing families and building on that. And Chris started building on commercial, and now having added the glamour in. But it's the benefit of running your own business is you can adapt it and change it to what point you're at in your life and where you're at with your family. So for us, the weddings were great when the kids were little. That worked really well. It was only as they got bigger that it became a real issue for us. So, But think about those kind of things. You might be at that point where, it's a great time to shoot weddings. You've got your husband home on a Saturday or your partner home on a Saturday to look after things, and it's not a big deal to be away. But if it changes and it's not working for you, think about other options of what you could do, because it's the great thing about what we do is there's so many genres of photography that you can work in and choose that will suit your family life.
So just to finish off, what 3 steps can photographers take immediately to get on that road towards having a great work-life balance?
So set up a time frame that you're going to work per day. So I think that's what made the biggest difference for me, was saying, okay, I'm working 8 till 3.
Yep.
Because it means I'm there from 8 to 3. I've got 6 hours to get everything done, so I can't spend my time stuffing around on Facebook and doing all the other things that we do. I just focus on work for those 6 hours and getting every single thing done.
Yep.
Get a CRM system set up. Get it so that it's saving time in your business and doing a lot of the work for you of tracking things. And seriously look at your workflow and think, how can I save time on each job? What can I do that will make it that I'm spending less time per job? So whether that's spending less time in Lightroom, getting faster at editing, spending less time in Photoshop of things they order, simplifying your product so you're not spending ages trying to work out, how am I doing this, what am I doing with it, all those kind of things. Even if it saves you 5 minutes, it's going to add up over time to really help you, minimise the time that you're spending in your business.
And maybe getting it right or close to right in the camera.
It's a huge part of it, yeah. Just, try the best. It doesn't always happen, if you have to spend an extra minute or two. But, I speak to photographers that are spending 8 hours editing a portrait session, and it just blows me away. I can't even imagine what they're spending 8 hours on it. Your client isn't going to know that it's perfect to your standards. If you get it pretty right in camera, yep, you might need to do a few things afterwards, but you definitely don't need to be spending 8 hours, working on Photoshop on a portrait.
I think the Mona Lisa was painted in less than 8 hours.
Yeah, probably. So, but look, and it's the thing. When I first started out, I was probably spending a couple of hours, and then I got it down to an hour because I was taking every image into Photoshop, and then this last year I've got it down to this half hour by using Bridge, with Lightroom, just to really minimise that time that you're putting into each job. It's still pretty spot on. The client's not going to know the difference, but it's just that extra half hour that I've now got to put towards marketing my business and spending it. People say, oh, you're so good at marketing. It's like, no, I'm not great at marketing. It's why I work with Bernie. I'm exactly the same as anyone else, but the difference with me is I just make the time to get it done. By keeping my workflow to a minimum, I've got more time to spend on marketing and planning things out and thinking about your year. As I said, for us this week's quite a week. We haven't got as much going on, so it's where we'll sit down and start planning and thinking about what we're actually going to do for the next year to get those clients in the door, because the reality is they don't come if you don't do the marketing.
Yeah, all right, great, Kate. Well, we're sort of out of time because you have to get to the studio as well for your early start. So thanks, and I'm sure everyone listening has got something from that. And as I say, as a photography business coach, it's so important that you learn to do the right things with the amount of time that you have. So thanks again, Kate, and thanks everyone for tuning in.
Okay, thanks for having me, Bernie.